Good afternoon all, and welcome to the first ever live webinar by Uecc. My name is Bjørn Svenningsen and I am the Director of Sales and Marketing of Uecc. And we are going to share an exciting agenda with you today. I hope you will be able to learn a lot about Uecc and what we are all about. We're obviously eager to carry your cargo. Some of you think about Uecc as car carrying. Yes, we do carry cars, but we are also quite big when it comes to high and heavy cargo and breakbulk cargo. So we can offer you a solution throughout Europe. Today, it will not be possible to write any verbal questions. You are all muted. And what we will do is to use the live question box menu on the right-hand side. Drop your questions whenever you have them, and then we will monitor them as we go. And then we will answer any questions you may have at the end of this event. We will also, if there are too many questions and we cannot answer everything at the end here, then we will come back to you in writing. With our response to this one, because we will follow up on everything that's being asked today. Also, we will have a good group of colleagues with us today. And as I said, we're very eager to carry your cargo in our pan-European network. We will now start to move into the agenda, and you'll see it on the screen very short. Here you go. When I sign off here, then I will hand over, not yet, but I will hand over to Helen Olafsson, who is our leader, head of trade team number 1. She'll be going through the network that we will have in 2021. Following Helen, then Niklas Giving will take over. Niklas is our head of trade team 2, and he'll guide you through that team. Then I will Niklas will hand over later on to Daniel Gent, who is our energy and sustainability manager, and he will tell you in 2020 what we did on the sustainability side, which is quite a lot, and then also talk about the plans that we have for 2021. Then we will have a session with questions. I'll do a short wrap up, and the presentation themselves here will take about 30 minutes or so. We have allocated time until 1500 hours, and we hope that there will be plenty of questions. So we will fill up the time until 3 o'clock. If not, we will sign off when we have finished the answering your questions, and then we will perhaps finish even earlier than planned. But as I said, welcome to the first ever live webinar from Uecc. We're very excited to have you here, and we have a good agenda for you today. And we are eager to carry your cargo all over Europe. And with that, I will hand over to my capable colleagues. And the first one out is Helen Olafsson. There you go, Helen.
Thank you very much, Bjørn. And good afternoon all. My name is Helen Olafsson, and I am head of Baltic and Biscay trades. And I have been working in Uecc since 2008. My responsibility covers Baltic, Bristol and Biscay service, with all the day-to-day operations performed by the vessel operators and also the trade coordinators taking care of your cargo. But before moving into the various trades, we can have a look at Uecc and the liner trading network. We are covering in total 24 ports where you can see going all the way from Turkey and up to Russia. And in total, this year, UCC is planned to do 2,698 port calls. Our Baltic service. This is where we have our two newest vessels, Auto Echo and Auto Energy, both running on LNG. The service is weekly with a 14-day loop, starting in Southampton before calling Zeebrugge and Bremerhaven, continue on to Malmö, then Hanko in Finland, and then into St. Petersburg in Russia. Then they sail back again to Southampton. Out of Finland and Russia, we have space to offer, and transit time to Southampton is 4 days. Moving on to our Bristol service, we have Auto Sun as the dedicated vessel. And she has been running this service for several years. New this year, however, on Bristol, is that we are now linking Santander with Portbury directly. And here again, the good news is, if you have any cargo for us, we have plenty of space to offer you from Portbury, both to Santander and Patakis. The last service under my responsibility is the Biscay service. And this one is split into different rotations. We have Auto Sky and Auto Star, both sister vessels, running from Santander, Patakis and Zeebrugge. They both cover, but Rotterdam is served with Auto Sky and Southampton with Auto Star. Both are on a weekly service. In addition, and we are very excited, is that we are soon to have Monza Express in our fleet. Plan to do Patakis to Zeebrugge, shuttling. Last but not least, the last vessel covered on the Biscay is Auto Pride. Now we also call this service the Brexit service, covering then Southampton, Bremerhaven, Zeebrugge, back to Southampton again before she calls Le Havre. This rotation is starting up next week, meaning week 4. And these are the services that I am responsible for. So now I will give the word over to my colleague, Nicholas.
Thank you, Helen, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nicholas Giving. I have been working in UCC since 2011, and my current position is Head of Trade Team 2. This means that I am responsible, or my team is responsible, for vessel trading and customer service ranging from Turkey and up to Norway. And my team also includes in-house stowage, cargo handling, quality, acceptance, and cargo care. So I'll now take you through the last 3 trades. As you can see here, we're going to start off with Atlantic. Atlantic service is served by 3 vessels, Viking Amber, Spica Leader, and Prometheus Leader, all with 80-ton ramp capacity, and they are divided into 2. So 2 vessels are calling what we are calling the short loop. Now 2 vessels on the long loop and 1 vessel on the short loop. So starting with the short loop, which is then starting in Vigo, and it includes a combination of all or some of the ports listed. So we have Vigo, Le Havre, Zeebrugge, Sheerness, and Port. This loop also has space southbound, so if you have anything, please let us know. The long loop is linking Spain and Norway, and en route they are also calling Zeebrugge and Bremerhaven. And on the southbound part, they add Cuxhaven and Southampton before returning to Vigo. This loop also has space southbound, so please let us know if anything. Next trade is our Norway Service. She is currently serviced with Auto Progress. She is a straight stern ramp vessel and has 82-ton capacity on the ramp. She is calling Bremerhaven and Oslo twice per week and Valham once. We are also able to offer shipments to the western part of Norway to ports such as Stavanger, Bergen, and Trondheim. So let us know if you have any special requirements to this part of Norway. Then you have our north-south trade. No big changes this year. It's still 5 vessels sailing on a 35-day loop, all with 120-ton ramp capacity. We have the 3 sister vessels, Coral, Emerald, Opal, and then we have the 2 slightly bigger vessels, which is Vega and Pasero. The rotation includes 11 ports, and the rotation starts in Bremerhaven before going to Zeebrugge, Portbury, and Vigo, before entering the Mediterranean with Sagunto, Tarragona, Savona, Livorno, Piraeus, and then into Turkey with 2 ports, Otoport and Yenikoi. Our focus this year and what we strive to achieve is to make sure we have consistent frequency, transparent trading, and reliable service, but at the same time be flexible and cater for all kinds of changes. This is the end of my presentation, and now I will hand you over to Daniel Gent, who will take you into the exciting world of sustainability.
Thank you very much, Nicholas, for the introduction. Yes, my name is apparently Daniel Gent. It's what it says up here anyway. And I am apparently the Energy and Sustainability Manager for Uecc. I've been in Uecc since 2008. That means that in my role, I'm responsible basically for any part of the energy mix for the vessels we have, any sustainability initiative related to environmental, economic or social sustainability would fall under my remit. And basically, I'm taking an overall look on how we actually realize our strategy and our vision in a kind of sustainable and profitable way as well. So I'll take you into my part of the presentation now, which begins quite simply and straightforward with our vision. Our vision is to be the leading provider of sustainable short sea ro-ro transportation in Europe. Our vision's pretty clear, and you can see that sustainability is at the core of our vision. Our actions define who we are and how we realize our vision. And the actions that Uecc has taken are quite clear. The actions that we take position us in front of the market. You can see that one of the first things we've addressed here is we pioneer the use of new greener fuels, such as biodiesel. In doing so, Uecc can decrease the environmental impact of operating our legacy tonnage. That can be our older tonnage, which doesn't necessarily have the justification to invest heavily on machinery on board, but that doesn't mean we can't make it greener. We can look for alternative new fuels which can reduce our carbon footprint on these tonnage and still make them a really sustainable operation and reduce the emissions for our customers. We were the first carrier to have dual fuel LNG car carriers and to operate them with cleaner fuels as biodiesel as well. And these vessels are operating on our Baltic service, as Helen had mentioned earlier on, and have successfully managed to reduce our customers' carbon emissions on this service by up to 20%. On top of that, reducing the nitrous oxides and sulfur emissions substantially as well. At the end of this year, we're going to have our new LNG battery hybrid vessels arriving into Europe. With these vessels, we go further than the around 20% reduction in CO2 that we have on the existing LNG vessels. We can get further than that. They also reduce, as I mentioned, our NOx emissions by up to 90% and almost entirely eliminate the sulfur and particulate matter emissions, which are particularly harmful to human health when operating on residual and older fuels. And we can find that with these vessels, we're really operating in a cleaner, greener way that we've not seen before. These new vessels are especially remarkable because they have battery technology on board as well. So when the vessels are coming into the port, they can actually reduce consumption during manoeuvring in port by switching to operating on a battery, which of course benefits the cleaner air in the port itself. UECC is looking well ahead to 2050. We already have an ambitious target with the IMO, with 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. UECC will go beyond that. We're going to do more than that. We're going to exceed the targets which have been set by the industry. And by 2040, there's a target to reduce carbon intensity by 40%. UECC will go beyond that. We will relentlessly find the ways that we can reduce our carbon footprint to realise emission savings for our customers and for our fleet. We're also installing ballast water treatment system on our vessels well in advance of the IMO requirement. Another exciting development is that the new buildings we have, the LNG battery hybrid vessels, are going to be delivered with the main equipment for cold ironing. We're also looking at retrofitting this technology onto existing older tonnage. What that means is what cold ironing is, essentially, is when the vessel comes into the port, they stop using the onboard power generation and switch to shore power. And of course, what that means is we can stop using fossil fuels in the case of a vessel which runs on marine gas oil or even LNG, and we switch to using shore electricity, which of course we can try and source from renewable sources such as wind or solar or hydro. And it means that the vessel goes into port, stops producing any emissions to the air and goes on to shore power. Quite an impressive development. So we're also leaders on the thought processes that go on in our industry. The Clean Cargo Working Group is a group which we're heavily involved in. We're looking to work together with industry partners to find a methodology and a manner in which we can really capture and measure our carbon emissions so that our customers can make an informed decision about how much carbon emissions are produced when transporting with different carriers. This is an important way to increase transparency in our industry and give customers the best available choice when evaluating tenders. We're proud members of the United Nations Global Compact initiative. We partnered with the Good Shipping Programme last year to reduce CO2 emissions on our biofuel vessels, which reduced CO2 emissions by 85%. And we're already well on our path to carbon neutrality. Our CO2 emissions have reduced by 38% in the carbon intensity measure, and our sulfur oxides have reduced by 51% between 2014 and 2019. So, onto the flagships of our fleet, the Uecc and Auto Energy, the largest, most technically advanced and sustainable pure car and truck carriers ever built. These vessels were first envisaged in a project that began in 2013, well before any LNG bunker infrastructure existed in any meaningful way in Europe. But we decided to go ahead with this and forge a path forward to pioneer the market and to bring vessels that had not been seen in our sector previously. They were delivered at the end of 2016. And they really kind of kicked off the LNG bunker market in the region in which they're trading. As Helen mentioned, these vessels are trading on our Baltic service, doing a 14-day loop between Zeebrugge and St. Petersburg, operating on LNG. They have a larger capacity than vessels we've had here previously. They have increased flexibility on an operational level for our customers. They reduce fuel consumption because they're more efficient, and they reduce emissions because of the lower fuel consumption, but also because the fuels which we put on board these vessels have lower carbon emissions anyway. These ships have been designed to help our customers excel and have the most sustainable and efficient supply chains. Well, 2020, I think we can all say we're probably quite glad that it's behind us. In a lot of ways, personally, it's been very challenging. Professionally, it's been challenging for all of us. We're all feeling the effects of the pandemic. But UECC continued to pursue our sustainable agenda in 2020. We hit a number of remarkable milestones throughout the year, and I'd like to discuss a few of them with you here. You can see at the top, in the early part of the year, we held a steel cutting ceremony for our second LNG battery hybrid vessel in China. That's the second of 3, which are now all well underway in the shipyards in China and will be delivered throughout the end of this year and early into 2022. They're going to be a really exciting addition to our fleet, and we can't wait to have them here in Europe. In March, we struck a deal to put biofuel on board one of our older vessels, Auto Sky, and I'm really happy to report that Auto Sky continues to operate on biofuel to this day. So we're approaching now 1 year of continuous operation on biofuel, which really is a remarkable achievement and has generated some enormous emission reductions, which our customers are enjoying and hopefully will look to come on board with further. In the summer, we retrofitted some of our other vessels with artificial intelligence, which dynamically manages the engine conditions when the vessel's at sea. The idea here is, of course, that we reduce fuel consumption by operating the engine in the most lean, green way. This optimization project realizes lower fuel emissions because there's less consumption. So it's another exciting development we've seen on board a number of our older vessels. In October, as I mentioned earlier on, we joined the United Nations Sustainability Pact, known as Global Compact. This again is a pact through which thousands upon thousands of global corporations have signed up to say that we will operate our business in line with some sustainable virtues, and that's the way we feel we should act. You need to say what you'll do and follow up on those actions. And in December, we struck another remarkable milestone, which was when we brought on board biogas in Sweden on the Auto Energy. We delivered, as part of our LNG mix, we included some biogas into that, which is the first time that a car carrier has had biogas on board. Really another remarkable achievement. And of course, what that does is it takes our emission reductions further from the already impressive 20 to 25% we can get on LNG to, carbon neutrality by using biogas. So UECC is really thinking green, and we open doors to a sustainable future. So this is how our fossil oil usage has looked in the last 5 years. And I think what's remarkable about this is that 2020 is the first time that alternative fuels have made up more than 10% of our overall energy mix. It's an impressive achievement. Since the introduction of our vessels, the LNG dual fuel vessels in 2016, we've continued to add more and more alternative fuels into the fuel mix, and now we depend on fossil oil less than we ever did before. It means that we can deliver our customers' cargo in a cleaner, greener way. This is how we achieved that 10% reduction in dependency on fossil oil. You can see that we already have an impressive over 10,000 tons of LNG and biofuel in our energy mix, which is bringing about significant emission reductions, which I'll go into in the next slide. But I want to cast our eyes ahead, look forward and show you the way that we see the future. By 2025, we envisage that we will have over 30,000 tons of alternative fuels in our fleet. Represents a huge percentage of our total energy mix. And actually, my personal view is that we can go beyond this, we can go further than this, because we are constantly looking for new emerging fuels that we can implement quickly and safely into our fleet to offer quick and reduce our carbon emissions further. So 32,000 to me is the baseline that we need to be at, and I think we can go even further than that. And this is how our alternative fuels translates into emission reductions. 2020, again, a remarkable year with over 10,000 tons of alternative fuels on board our vessels and nearly 20,000 tons of CO2 emission reductions. Again, the growth here, and you can see that the path that we're taking is that every year we're striving to improve from the previous year. And by 2025, we expect to have close to 35,000 tons of CO2 emission reductions when compared to a marine gas oil baseline. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, we expect that we can go beyond these with the development of new technology and new fuels. So UECC is the right choice for the future. Why? Well, fairly simply because we choose to be the market pioneer, because we believe, as I mentioned earlier, that profitability and sustainability go hand in hand. We know that our customers' demands continue to evolve. We all want cleaner air, we all want cleaner oceans. We all want a cleaner logistics chain as consumers, as any part of the supply chain. We are the first mover in our industry. Constantly, we've proved that, we demonstrate that, and we will continue to prove that. We've realised significant emission reductions over the last years, and we're going to go further as we continue to invest in exciting developments like our LNG battery hybrid vessels. We use our resources smarter, and that's what defines sustainability for us. The people in UECC are relentlessly looking for better ways to operate. This brings me to the final part of my presentation, but perhaps the most important one. I'd like to focus first of all on this slide. There's a lot going on here, but I'd like to focus first of all on the project that was performed jointly with UECC, BMW, Good Shipping and Good Fuels, as you can see there. Good Fuels being the provider of the biofuel, which UECC has taken on board. Good Shipping is the third party through which we can verify the emission reductions that we can achieve. And of course, BMW, one of our clients who really supported this project. They came on board to say essentially that they wanted to transport their cargo carbon neutrally. We had the means through which to do so, and BMW supported that project in another remarkable milestone, and one which I think really sets the tone for how this kind of operation could go on in future. UECC is constantly looking at these different green initiatives, and we want our customers to take stock of that and to see where they can come on board with us on this. The reality is that even if your cargo is carried in the UECC fleet and it's not on board an LNG dual fuel vessel, it's not on board the battery hybrid vessel, or maybe it's not on a vessel that has biofuel, it doesn't mean that we can't transport your cargo in a more sustainable manner. We can find ways to do that. If you pick up the phone and get in touch with us, or you can email or call me directly or your key account manager, we can actually look at really exciting ways we can decarbonize your cargo on the UECC fleet, regardless of whether there is a direct biofuel on board or LNG on board that vessel. There is always options, and we're prepared to invest in them for our customers. As I mentioned earlier, we've got the new buildings coming with cold ironing. We're going to be running a lot of projects with key ports around Europe through which we can reduce emissions in port by switching to shore power, which has a direct benefit as well to the air quality, as I mentioned earlier. And perhaps not an often thought of consideration is that customers' cargo, which is in our industry sitting on the quayside next to the vessel, of course, what we want to do is clean the air around that. We want to have clean air around the cargo so that there is less pollutants affecting the whole local area where the port is operating. So that more or less brings me to the end of my part of the presentation. I hope there's a lot of questions. I haven't had a chance to look at the Q&A box as it's going ahead, but I'm sure Bjorn will take us through that now. And I hope if you think any questions after this presentation, feel free to get in touch with me or Bjorn or anybody else in the team, and we will address your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. And also thank you to Helen for going through our Trade Team 1 up in the north, Niklas for Trade Team 2 and our robust network in that area. Throughout the presentation here, we have received a number of questions. So we will just go through these questions, and I will hand it to the person who I believe is going to be able to give the best possible answer to that one. The first one, I think I can actually handle myself. It was a question regarding if the attendees will receive a copy of the presentation. Yes, of course, we will share the presentation with you. As long as you have left contact details, we'll certainly do that. Right now, I think we're close to about 300 attendees here. And so far, I see that there are a good number of questions, so let's go through them. The next one is related to Brexit. And it's actually, the question is, what is your experience with Brexit now? Do you experience delays or increased transit times? If so, can you quantify this? So then I think we will just go to, first we'll go to Helen and then to Niklas, and then they can comment a little bit on their individual trades. And here, Helen, I see you're live, so go ahead.
Yes. First of all, we didn't have any vessels trading in and out of UK early in Jan, but what we have seen now, we haven't had any delays on our schedules, but we see some challenges in regard to more in specific on the cargo, having all the details at hand and before we actually come into port. So that is has been the focus, and that will be the focus onwards as well, in order to actually avoid having any delays. So key here is to have everything prepared prior to shipment and on a very detailed level.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. Let's move over to Niklas for a short comment.
I can confirm what Helen just said. We haven't experienced any delays in that sense, but the paperwork and what we need to do prior to arrival and prior to loading is much more detailed now than it was before. And of course, we do the extra in order to avoid these delays. So it's a lot more work for the whole team and for everybody involved. Yes.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Niklas. And as Niklas stated, important that we have correct details of the cargo that we're shipping in a timely manner. So then we appeal to you, our customers out there, to make sure that the details are correct. When the details are correct, there will be no delays. Next one is a question related to our new LNG battery hybrid vessels. And it says, when will the names of the new vessels be revealed? Well, that's a good question, but this is something that we're going to, of course, do when we bring these vessels into Europe. We will have events when these vessels are arriving in Europe. Depending a little bit on this COVID situation, we'll see how we are going to do this. But it could even be that it will be the first ever live or virtual naming ceremony for USCC, but we'll get back to you on this one. We do have the names, we have good names, and we're going to reveal them in an exciting way when we get a little bit closer to the delivery dates. Next one is related to LNG bunkering options and location. It says, what LNG bunkering options / locations are currently available in Europe? And I think I will hand over to the gentleman in the UK, Mr. Gent.
Thank you very much, Bjorn. A good question, and one I think that was is topical now, but it was even more topical when we were developing these vessels back in 2013, 14, and 15, because then the answer was not many options or locations, and actually that was one of the reasons this was such a brave step for us, was that when we brought these vessels, when we ordered the vessels and brought them to Europe, there were few and far between LNG bunker options. We did have one supply that we partnered with, and when the vessels arrived into Europe, we had a consistent supply with them. I'm happy to say that now, as a result of our development of the LNG vessels, and of course our commitment to future LNG vessels, there is a kind of burgeoning LNG bunker market now in Europe. And what we're actually seeing is that now there are a range of options. I mean, we operate on the Baltic service, as I mentioned. We have options to bunker LNG in Zeebrugge. We can take it in the north of Spain. We can take it in Finland. Russia is coming on soon. St. Petersburg supplies are coming alive to this. Of course, in the Scandinavian countries, in Sweden particularly, there is a range of supply options. So the short answer is now there are good LNG bunkering options and locations across Europe. Worldwide, it's a slightly different situation, but right now for smaller scale with trucks, there is a good availability. But what we're seeing, and it's a really exciting development, is there are a lot of LNG bunker vessels coming into the market. So the opportunity to take LNG bunkers is widening all the time.
Very good, Dan. Thank you very much. Then moving on, questions are really coming in here. That's good. Keep them coming. Next one is, on which trades will the new hybrid vessels be operated from the end of 2021? It's a good question, and I will I'll take care of this one myself, actually, because this will be a combination of our Atlantic and our Biscay service that we're deploying those vessels into. But this is obviously something that we will get into some more details, discussions with our different customers in this trade, and also future potential customers that we would like to give the opportunity with a cleaner supply chain. Looking into the next one, it's a little bit technical, and I have noted a name here. It's a little bit maybe too technical. I don't know if I see Daniel is nodding, so we will pick that one up. Carlo, I see that it's your questions. We'll get back to you on this one and give you a good answer. Then we have another one. It's related to state of charge. The question is, what's UCC standpoint to state of charge level for electric vehicles transported on board UCC vessels? This is a very interesting question, and you may know that we already have established our process for handling electric previously owned used vehicles. And right now we are in the process of coming up with a standard when it comes to new electric vehicles and respective state of charge. It's very different from OEM to OEM that we deal with, the feedback that we get, and we need to find a something that is possible for the industry. We also have detailed discussions with our insurers, because this is something which is on top of their agenda also, and it's related to how the cost of insurance has developed with more and more of our cargo becoming electric vehicles, and some see a potential risk of this. But in terms of our standpoint, we have not come out with a concrete standard, a UCC standard yet, but we will be doing that shortly based on the different discussions we have with the OEMs, and we do have to find an industry standard, something that we can all live with. Moving on a little bit, next questions. It says, good day, dear colleagues. Could you tell please why UCC doesn't call at Port Bronka in Russia? Good question. And I think this is something that we will take directly with the person who gave us that question. If you just let us know who you are, and then we will get back to you on this one. Moving on down the list here, let me see here. I see that we had one question related to, it says, how will the change in policy for the Dutch scheme subsidy for biofuel affect your ability to use biofuel? It's a very good question, and I think that I will hand over to Dan, and he can give you a little bit the feedback on this. And I also am sure that Dan will get back to this person a little bit later. So here you go, Dan.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, good question from John Tarja there. Yeah, it's one that we were all monitoring last year, because we knew that the Dutch government's policy towards biofuels would change in the marine sector. Just to give a bit of context to this question, essentially the Dutch government awards certificates when biofuels or renewable fuels are entering into the power generation market. It's the same in all of the countries that we live in, pretty much. The difference was that in the Netherlands, you can supply fuel into the marine market for use as bunkers and still receive these certificates, these kind of subsidies in a way, from the Dutch state. Now, what happened throughout last year was that the Dutch government decided it wasn't working for them, and they wanted to make a change to it. So as of 2021, the scope through which you could claim these subsidies has been narrowed. So the feedstocks, basically, which are going into the biofuels which we put on our vessels, have been affected. Essentially, what it is now is that you need to have an advanced, what we call an advanced feedstock. Essentially, the amount of different types of fuels which can make up a biofuel has been restricted. For us, it's fairly good news anyway, because our suppliers have a good range of feedstocks available, and we're discussing with them already to renew for 2021. We don't see that the change in the Dutch policy is going to affect our ability to put biofuel on board our vessels. What it will probably mean is that we will have to change the type of biofuel we have on board. So there'll be some technical challenges, some ways to manage it, but the end result will be the same. We will continue to operate our vessel on biofuel, and we will continue to achieve the same emission reductions that we did before, which can then be passed on to our customers through schemes like you saw with BMW earlier. So yeah, it's one that we're really watching. I think it will develop more in the future. And what I would, personal view, what I would like to see is that what the Dutch government pioneered last year in opening the marine market up to subsidies for biofuels, I'd like to see that happening in other European countries as well, because I think that's the way that we can realise quite quick emission reductions in the marine market, and it's a good way to get us on our pathway to decarbonisation. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I see that the number of questions have gone down. I see there was just one new coming in here, and we will get back to, it's a question related to our trading area. It says, why do not call at China? And of course, we would love to call on China, and even though our vessels are not calling China, we do belong to a large group of companies. As you may know, UCC is owned 50% by NYK and 50% by Wallenius Line, and they have their corresponding deep sea services. So together with our group companies, we are able to offer you a service. Right now, as some of you know, our trading area is limited to Europe, and as both Helen and Niklas presented, we are covering the entire European waters from Finland in the north and down to Turkey in the south east. So that's what we're doing. Just checking a little bit on questions to see if there's anything more to say. Then I see that there's a question on the methane emission, and it says, how about the negative effects of huge methane emission? Yes, this is obviously something that we are aware of and concerned and monitor. So maybe if I hand over to Daniel, maybe you can just give us a little rundown on this problem.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah, a good question, and it's a really valid question as well. Of course, you know, we know that the overall greenhouse gas effect of methane is particularly strong, and it's something that we need to be very aware of, and we need to be careful of. We need to make sure that when we make an investment in sustainable technology, it ticks every box. It can't just tick one box. We have to make sure that it's viable for the future. That's why I'm really happy to say, like, the E-class vessels, the Uecc and the Auto Energy, have high pressure engines. It means the methane slip is next to zero anyway. So really the methane emission that you talk about there doesn't really exist with those vessels. What I can also say is that if you look at the engine manufacturers who are producing these LNG dual fuel engines now, the methane slip has been reduced year on year. Many of the manufacturers now estimate that by 2022-23 you will have a next to zero methane slip on even on low pressure engines as well. The technology is advancing at a rapid pace. So, you know, the way that we look at it is the existing technology we have already has extremely low methane emissions anyway, next to zero in fact, and the new technology is advancing to the level that we still see the overall greenhouse gas benefit as being substantial. And I think on a wider point on this, we have to say that, you know, the old adage goes that, you know, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. What we see is that the LNG vessels we invest in now are a great solution to realize emission reductions across a range of emissions now, but more so, the new vessels that we have arriving now will be still operating hopefully by 2050, and clearly LNG is not the future for 2050 and onwards. We need to decarbonize fully. That means no fossil fuel. But what is really exciting about these vessels is that an LNG vessel is ready to use biogas. We proved this already when we put biogas on one of our other vessels. We can already switch this technology over. So we see the investment in the technology as being the bridge to ultimate decarbonisation. What happens is investment in the technology will drive the supply side to say that there is a demand for sustainable fuels on this technology, and that's how we will ultimately achieve decarbonisation. And the final kind of point on that, I suppose, would be the ultimate goal would be find ways to get green hydrogen into our energy mix, and probably we end up producing a green gas through hydrogen. But, you know, this is a long way in the future. The first step we have to do now is invest in the LNG technology, and that sets us on the pathway.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's correct. We have never said that LNG is the future, but it's the future today. Some of you may have read the article, the interview with our CEO, Glenn Edvardsen, last week in Sea Trade and various publications. And that was precisely the comment made in this article. It's about using available technology today instead of doing nothing. We cannot be complacent. We have to do something with what is available today. Going on to questions, I see that we have one more question here now. The speed of questions coming in is going down, but we have one more. And it says, when looking into sustainability, it's clear the main focus is on emission and fuel. However, is there also focus on reducing plastics and polyester, i.e. for securing materials or handling materials, as some shipping companies do? Yes, definitely. And this is something that Niklas and his team are looking into. At this point, we don't have anything we can put on the table and share with you, but clearly this is something that is a focus within the company also. We have to look into every single angle of our business, under every single stone, to see what we can do. So I think that's the, let me see how we're doing. Yeah, there's some more coming in here. Let's see here on the question here. It says, what is a minimum commitment in CEU, meaning car equivalent unit, letting USCC call? Yes, we have talked about this a little bit later, and I think that whoever you are, I see that you are anonymous right now, but let us discuss this. You can see my email address in the background there, my telephone number. Please call me anytime, or any of my colleagues. We do also have a commercial agent up in Russia, so we are there to ask or answer any questions. What we will do now, since there are no more questions, is that we will leave the contact details to our various offices on the screen a little bit. And then we will turn down this live link, but we'll leave it on a little bit so you can see our contact details. And also what I would like to do is to, first of all, to say thank you to all of you who have been listening in to us today. It's been a good experience for us, and I hope it's been a good experience for you, that you have learned something new about USCC and what we are up to. We do have a robust network covering Europe, and we are there to help you with all types of cargo, cars, vans, high and heavy cargo, breakbulk. We have a great team within USCC that are able to handle any requirements that you may have. So with that, I would like to say thank you very much for joining us here. We had close to about 300 people that were in here, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we will share presentations with you. And with that, we switch the camera onto the contact details for the next couple of minutes, so you can see those, and then we're looking forward to hearing from you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.